Okay, good morning everybody, here from the rather gray but not really blue sky to Berlin. Not only good morning, but also maybe good afternoon, good evening, depending on which time zone you are probably currently locked in. My name is Knut. I'm professor for innovation economics here at the TU Berlin, and also head of the business unit innovation and regulation at the Fraunhofer Institute for Systems and Innovation Research located in Karlsruhe. I would like to have welcomed you, both the speakers, panelists, and participants here in the middle of Berlin at the Fraunhofer Forum to our conference, Interoperability in the Digital Age, Licensing of Standard Essential Patents. However, the corona pandemic does this not allow currently, and also the exchange between the different participants is missing. Nevertheless, we decided to have this conference now in a complete virtual form. That means it's not even hybrid. But this allows to have many more participants than the maximum of 120 in the Fraunhofer Forum. And also had to have participants here joining the conference all around the world. Therefore, also the conference has now, meanwhile, at least a European and, regarding the participants, even kind of a global character. The event is well timed, because just a few days ago, the European Commission has published a new IP action plan, which addresses not only IP protection, its better use and better enforcement, but also its more effective access and sharing, also via the instrument of standard essential patents. And this sharing is even more important in the decade or age of open innovation, kind of kicked off by Henry Chespo in 2003. And secondly, parallel to the application of the IP action plan, the pilot study about the essentiality assessment of standard essential patents has been published. The later studies and also several related studies have been synthesized by Nikolaus Thumm, my co-host of this event, within his position at the GRC in Seville. And I'd like to thank him especially really for having this great event today, because he's not only the co-host, he's really the master of the event, because he put together the agenda. He managed also to have really a very illustrative list of speakers and panelists here today, kind of joining to discuss this very important and relevant topic. And I will also not kind of go through all the speakers. This will be done in the different sessions. However, I would like to make two exceptions. First, I'd like to welcome Kerstin Jona, Director General for Internal Market, Industry and Entrepreneurship and SMEs, DG Grow, who has probably the most experiences from a policymaker perspective to bridge the gap between patent standards. Second, I'd like to welcome Professor Wehrspohn, Executive Vice President for Technology, Marketing and Business Models at the Fraunhofer Society, who is really currently pushing the role of standards as a channel of knowledge and technology transfer, which really I appreciate very much. And finally, I'd like to thank iPolitics, who is kind of hosting technically the event via Zoom. And now I'd like to hand over to Nikolaus, who is also now a guest researcher here at TU Berlin. And I will see you later then in the second panel when we talk about licensing issues. Now I wish you a very kind of interesting and inspiring event, and hopefully also a lot of it kind of interaction despite the restrictions we have currently. Thank you. Nikolaus, the floor is yours.
So thank you very much for your kind words, Knut, and I just continue to say thank you to everybody, but all the panelists, of course, making this great event possible, but in particular also to all the participants. I can see now 165 participants here, and we have registered more than 400 people, so more people will come in and come out. So I think that's just the way we are handling these type of events nowadays. So I'm very pleased indeed that we can host more people than actually the initial room was planned to host, only 120. So that is the great advantage, but still I very much hope to meet you all in person very soon, somewhere, wherever that will be, on the globe. So thank you very much to all of you. Knut already mentioned that this conference is very timely as for the policy action that has recently been taken and that might continue in the next future. So therefore, I'm very pleased that we managed to set this up, not knowing exactly when all this policy action was about to come up, but it's actually really very well timed now. In addition to that, I would like to say that the initial idea was also that this is not a German event, but it is a German event in the sense that it was intended to be hosted, and it is hosted in Berlin, right? And also under the German presidency of the European Council, so that a little bit putting into the focus the German perspective, knowing that it's a European issue, knowing that it's not only European, but the global issue after all. But there is a lot, of course, that can be said from the German perspective, and that probably explains you a little bit the selection of the speakers that we have also here today, putting this into the right perspectives here. The objective is very simple. I mean, we would like to have a platform of exchange with the policymakers, with the practitioners, the judges, and all interested people, academia, and so on. And I'm glad that we managed to set this up. I will say a lot more things then later on the topic, but now I would like to do a few housekeeping. I would like to raise a few housekeeping issues. So, as for the question and answer sessions, we have planned time to have question and answer sessions. Please use the chat room. There will not be a possibility to have interventions directly, but we will select questions from the chat room. If possibly you identify yourself there, we will mention the person that question is coming from, right? And also if we have time during the question and answer sessions, we will have, if we have time there, we will set up a few poll questions where you also welcome to participate and to make some of the points we would want to make. And of course, at the end of the conference, you're always free to contact us with any questions, follow-up questions. We will be very glad to answer any questions that might remain to be answered there. The bios of all the speakers are online, so at least I will not lengthily introduce the speakers because you have all the information online. That will save us a little bit of time, and you can find the detailed information then on the webpage of the Technical University of Berlin. Now I would like simply to move over to the first two speakers, and Knut Blind already mentioned that indeed we are very glad to have here as a hosting organization, we have Professor Ralf Wehrspohn, who is the Executive Vice President of Technology, Marketing and Business Models, and he's a member of the Executive Board of the Fraunhofer-Gesellschaft first, and then following Professor Wehrspohn, we have also Dr. Thomas Zielke, who is the head of Division and Technology Transfer, Standardization and Patents in the Digital and Innovation Department of the German Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy. So that nicely puts into a frame the general conditions that we intended to set up our conference here. And now I move over the floor to Professor Wehrspohn, and I would kindly ask the technician to move up the slides from Professor Wehrspohn, please.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me, Mr. Thumm?
I can hear you very well, yes.
Okay, so a warm welcome from my side. Ralf Wehrspohn, Vice President of the Fraunhofer Society. I'd like to welcome you, and normally I would have welcomed you in our Fraunhofer Forum in Berlin, but this hasn't worked out. I have some slides for you. Should I share? I can't see them.
Rajai, please, can you move them on?
Otherwise I share them. Oh yeah, they're coming, okay.
Coming, good.
Good, great. Yes, so we start with the first slide, second slide, please. Yes, that's the Fraunhofer Society. We are the largest research organization in Germany and as well as in Europe on applied research, so bringing fundamental research towards the market. In 2019 was still pre-corona. We had an overall financial volume of 2.8 billion euros, and we make roughly about 70% with contracts either direct with industry or publicly financed. Very important is, and we just made a study by, and I'd like to thank also here Mr. Hermann and Mr. Blind, that for analyzing what's the position of Fraunhofer in the area of standard essential patents, and actually we are making #1 in Germany with about 2,300 active standard essential patents. So that's also why we are very much interested in having this conference and hosting this conference. Next slide, please. So standard essential patents, in particular in digital age, are really a big opportunity from the innovation perspective. I mentioned Fraunhofer is very active. Why are we very active? Because we believe that standard essential patents makes innovation public and accessible to all. Standard essential patents contribute to the welfare of industry and people alike. I will show you in the slide, next slide, a little bit more in detail what that means. Standard essential patents allow essentially here, as you can see on the next slide, when we have standard essential patents, essentially patent blocking is not possible. You see, essentially, we are now really in a complicated situation. We are the way between classical competition, typical Schumpeter-like, or economic warfare, where we have different situations. By patenting, essentially, we can choose one way or the other. One is contributing to the worlds, the other is typically not contributing to the worlds of the whole world. But with the incentive for common standards and the incentive for standards, essential patents, and economic warfare in principle will not break out because they're available for all the persons in the world. So that's also one reason why we are very much pushing this to have really welfare on the whole world. Next slide, please. So essentially we have enhanced our activity on the corporate level to really motivate more people also within the Fraunhofer Society to take part in the strategic activities for standard essential patents. Currently we're very strong in the digital age, but this will become equally important for sustainability in the future. We've started a community of practice, and what I like very much is a paper Knut Blind made, where the relevance of standard and standard essential patents have been analyzed for the research and development area, in particular for university and research organization. And I really recommend this. There's a lot of interesting stuff in how we can improve also research and technology in the organizations and universities in the future. So I think this conference is actually also within the framework of Gaia X, which we are just starting, the right point to have and to discuss it. I'm very unfortunate that we can't see us personally, but I wish you all a very fruitful and hopefully also possible to discuss the issues which are relevant to standard essential patents. Fraunhofer is a clear promoter of this, and we are very happy that we can host this conference from our side. Thank you very much, and I wish you a fruitful conference.
So thank you very much, Mr. Wehrspohn. I think we can move over directly to Mr. Zielke. Can you hear me?
Yes, I definitely do. And good morning to everyone. Dear Professor Blind, Mr. Thumm, Mr. Wehrspohn, and dear Ms. Jonna, and dear distinguished panelists. Well, the somehow complex and weird institution entitled Standard Essential Patent is hard to explain to politicians. They know patents and they love inventors, and also having a so-called gold standard for something is always good, but connections of both seem to be not worth to deal with. Too complicated, not suitable for the constituency, an issue to be dealt with late at night in Parliament at best. But when it turns out that the fate of stock-listed multinational companies can depend on the question whether hundreds of millions of euros have to be paid for a standard essential license, or a production stop caused by infringements, maybe sentence which might affect jobs, that becomes interesting. Or when numerous press articles refer to the ongoing problems with standards that depend on patents and the licensing problem, which has led to numerous litigations at different courts, until at least one German court 2 weeks ago has put forward questions to the European Court of Justice. At the same time, we have an ongoing revision of the German patent law, which, among other issues, for the first time in section 139 shall establish a mandatory proportionality principle check in relevant litigation on friend-based license fees. Or, in other words, an appropriate protection of intellectual property against the desire to impose a complete stop of production lines and the damage that may result from this, which a potential patent violator might sometimes claim could be disproportionate. So dealing with the problem now comes timely, and we have recognized this and definitely do value the attempt to discuss possible solutions today. As current presidency of the EU Council, Germany in particular, the Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy decided to address the issue at hand and put it on the agenda. By working closely with our colleagues from the Ministry of Justice, we conducted a workshop with stakeholders on a national level in November. We also initiated a newly formed council working party on technical regulation, which had been in session already twice, and we have discussed the issue in one of them just 2 weeks ago. The licensing of standard essential patents, in particular in the field of 5G and Internet of Things, is of major importance for economic growth and development, not only in Germany, but in all of Europe. Current developments in technical convergence have shown that conflicts of interest existing between patent holders and patent users tend to lead to drawn down our patent proceedings in the course of the licensing of SEPs. These proceedings have grave impacts on industry. In the recent past, it has become clear for a significant number of cases that fair and predictable licensing requirements are needed where patents owned by the telecommunications industry are used by others, in particular by the automotive industry. There is a substantial lack of agreement on what constitutes a fair licensing practice. This is the reason why so many cases end up in court. And from the economic perspective, we need approaching SEP licensing in all sectors, not just because of the impact on the digital economy. Strengthening European industry and supporting R&D investment in 5G, IoT technology is very important to my ministry. In particular, Europe's technological sovereignty, without doubt, depends on and patents. We think timely with her new Commission has announced to deal with the SEPs as well. We are glad that the Commission also takes up that topic. Indeed, it is a good example how the Commission should overtake a coordinating function in such a matter. The federal German government highly appreciates the European Commission's current projects, as it also has been shared about a few days ago. After the first communication from the Commission entitled Setting Out the EU Approach to Standard Essential Patents of November 2017, we now received an intellectual property action plan, including a section for SEPs. We have working groups on SEPs and a pilot project for essentiality checks of standard essential patents published last week, and a landscape study of SEPs disclosed by ETSI. During our presidency, we have come to the conclusion that solving the problem, if solvable at all, cannot successfully be undertaken on a national point of view, but also has to be discussed and maybe decided at the end by the legislative action on a European level. However, we certainly would prefer business-driven solutions in a fair and level playing field approach. I must not anticipate what the outcome of our discussions will be today. For that, I'm looking forward to the contributions of so many excellent speakers and true experts to come. But a few impressions we noted from our activities so far I'd like to share. One central question of utmost importance was about the value of SEPs. Must SEPs be value-based on the invention they claim, or is it fair to co-opt the additional value created by others? Another major problem is that licenses are refused to suppliers higher in the value chain. This could violate friend rules and thus harm industry-based development or progress as such. Consequently, companies cannot reliably invest in innovation directed to development of communications technologies that can be deployed in multiple industry verticals. For OEMs and Tier 1 suppliers, this means that new and innovative products might not be developed. Finally, some open questions are the access to licenses, the valuation of licenses, how to create a level playing field for licensee industries, an adequate time frame for negotiations without undue delays. Some possible solutions have been proposed, such as patent pools, voluntary commitments, use of RDR, the publication of guidelines from CEN and CENELEC, draft MOUs, an initiative from the Japanese Patent Office, and probably many more. On behalf of my ministry, I'm happy that you have connected academia, patent lawyers, companies, the EU Commission, relevant organizations, jurisdiction, and associations for this topic. And therefore, I wish you and all of us a successful meeting and hopefully higher level of insight. So thank you very much and good day.
So thank you, Mr. Zielke, very much for these kind introductory words and the clear guidance, also direction from the side of the German ministry. We are very well on time now. We're actually ahead of time, which is excellent.